roll on this bad boy. All right, so you guys can see that right now we have our React application. Everything's good to go. We need to implement searching now, right? Filtering. So for example, if I type in Batman here, I do search. You guys see that the application reloads, right? That's because the default behavior why is this not opening? That's because the default behavior of HTML, an HTML form, is that when you submit it, it expects to make an API request. The API request gives you back a redirect, and then it tells you to go somewhere. But because our form is not hooked up with an API request, it just refreshes and then goes back to the original site. So how can we fix this? Yes, we're going to prevent default. So when I do search Batman, I click search. We need it to stay the same. Okay, and this is what we call AJAX, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So basically, it's a request that does not redirect the user. Think of it that way. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We got a navbar. We got set query right here. Okay, so we now need to look in our navbar, and then we need to see what on submit right here, right? So what are we gonna do here? We're gonna say pops.on search by term. Okay, I'm gonna call that to make it explicit. We need to prevent default, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass the E. Another thing we could have done is just done e.prevent default, call it, and then to make this multiple lines, put a colon right there. Does that work? Oh yeah. Does that work? Okay, I think this works. This also works, but to me it's ugly as shit. I don't want you to do that. So now we're gonna go ahead and define a function over here. We're gonna call this one what? Const on search by term is a function. And we're just gonna console.log to make sure we can get this thing to fire correctly. Will this fire correctly if we click search now? Why won't it fire correctly? Why won't it fire correctly, guys? Say again? We call it right here.
You haven't passed that into your navbar section.
1000% correct. Right now, if we click on this button, this is exactly the same problem that we had earlier. Okay? If we have a function called add, and it expects to have a property, right? And in the body, we return pops.a plus pops.b. And then we call this function, console.log add, and we pass the object, and we only give it a b with a value of 1, it's gonna throw an error. Okay, so the what's going on right now is that in a moment when we click on this button, right, it's gonna try to execute this function that does not exist. So we type something. Let's look at our console. We click this.
Right?
I don't smell weed. So what was the problem, guys? Because we did not pass the term. Okay, we did not pass this property called onSearch by term. Exactly the same behavior we observe here on the add. If we try to work with a property that is not passed in, it will throw an error. So let's fix this. So how can we get a property inside of our navbar by the name of onSearch term? If I go back to navbar here, right next to apples, if I add hello equals onSearch term, this will not work. Okay, so let's prove it. Type something, search, still same problem. So I'm trying to show you guys that the names, like which name corresponds to which argument. Okay, this on line 49 on search by term, what does that correspond to?
Function call.
A function where? On what line?
You have on the 17th.
Exactly, 27. What does on search term by search term on line 33 correspond to?
Whatever is the name that you're calling with on search term. So it'd be hello.
So really what we're saying is when we say on line 33 on the navbar, when we say pops.on search by term, we're saying I expect to see a property by this exact name. It can be no other name. It has to be the exact same name. Casing included. So I'm not going to call it hello because that's just a ridiculous name. I'm going to call it what it is. It's an on search by term function. That's what makes sense because that is what is actually happening. So we're going to save it. Now you guys will see if I type and I click search, it does in fact fire, right? So if you guys do not want to pass en, you can do it this way. Do it on one line, separate the line by this, and then you don't have to pass it in. You don't have to worry about it over here. Okay, so at this point, set the apples. So now we can just look at our query because we've already passed the query in, okay? So I expect that as we start typing Batman, it should be working, but it's not, okay? So let's think about this. On change, what happened? I put the on change in the wrong place. Wait a minute. Where's my search form? I'm confused right now. Where's the... Oh yeah, my bad. I'm so stupid. Okay, thank you. I'm so happy I got you around, bud. Thank you. So then I type Batman. Oop, that didn't work. Type input? I'm a bit confused, guys. Pops that apples. Set query. Alright, let's just test. The smoke test. Start small. Work inside out, okay? I want to see whether or not we can even get this thing to fire. Test. Start typing. That worked. So now we need to do pops dot set query. We're going to pass it to e.target.value. What does set query do? Oh, my bad. I'm so stupid. Okay, so set query is a function that has state. So my bad, I'm so stupid. We have to type and then we hit submit and then we'll see line 28. I'm so sorry, man. So we do Batman and then we do search and then we see Batman here. Okay, my bad, that's my fault. Okay, so now what is the objective? We need to look at all our movies and find the ones where the name is sort of similar. So we're gonna do what? Movies.filter. Movie, because we want to look at each individual movie and perform some logic. And inside of here, we're going to say if movie.title that includes what? Query, right? Then we're going to return true. Return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Now my expectation is filtered movies. Now my expectation is that filtered movies has to be less than the other movies. It has to be less items, right? It has to be less movies in our filtered movies, right? Because if we're filtering by name, we type in Batman or something, we should see fewer movies. That's the only logical thing that have happened, right? So now I'm gonna start typing in Batman. Let's type in something that we're for sure gonna see. We're gonna see Joker. Will this work, guys? Huh? Why won't this work, Steven?
Because it's going to be your lowercase and you got a capital letter.
Exactly correct. Because we're searching for a lowercase Joker and the title is a capital Joker, when we click search, it's actually going to be, there's going to be 0. And do we see 0 movies that fit the term Joker? That's exactly the behavior we observe. So Steven is 100% correct. So now we gotta make this smarter. We gotta say movie.titles two lowercase, and then we gotta do the same thing for our query. Okay. Now the expectation is that this will in fact work. So if we do Joker and we search, I expect to see at least one movie, and we do in fact see one movie that was filtered and made it through the filtration process. Okay, so now we got to do set movies. Set movies. And what are we going to set it to, guys? Someone help me out, please. Someone please help me out.
Filtered movies dot.
Just the filtered movies. We want that array.
The whole array.
We can stick it in the whole array.
From that array there to push it to the cart.
Correct. So now we delete this. Or let's just comment it out, okay? And this is going to work, but it's going to introduce a new bug. Okay, it's going to introduce a brand new problem. So I'm going to type in J-O-K-E-R. I'm going to do submit. It works. right? But now when I delete this, and I search, all our movies disappeared. All our movies disappeared. The reason why that is because it's a very similar problem to the thing when we did the Google News and the getting the original movies. We threw away all our old movies and we didn't hold on to them, right? We need to remember them later. So this is the objective. We need to create a new piece of state. And this state is going to be all movies. And then we're going to set something called set all movies. So the objective here is that we need to have a place where we keep all our old movies. So whenever we get our data back from our API inside of our get movies function, we're going to call the function get set all movies, and we're going to pass it the data that we currently have. Okay, so all movies will always have every movie. It's impossible for it to not have all movies. Okay, so watch this. I'm gonna prove it to you. So I'm gonna do application or components. We're gonna look at app and look at our state right here. One of these has all of the movies. But you guys will see me search. I do Joker. I do search. You now look at one of the arrays. One array only has one element in it, which corresponds to the title Joker. The other piece of state, all movies, still has the original movies. Okay, so what do we do here? How is this useful? Well, remember a second ago, whenever I searched Joker and then I cleared it and searched, we didn't get anything, right? So now what we want to have happen is that if we search, when we click the search button, if the query term is equal to an empty string, we're going to return. But before we return, we got to do one more thing. We got to set our movies array back to all movies. Okay, so we save. So now the expectation is if I search Joker, I should get Joker. If I delete it and search, I should get all of them back. So I leave that up to you guys, man. Like, you guys have done something so similar here. Some of you have already done this, right? Like, some of you have already done it where as you start typing, it filters. Can one of you guys do that? Like, you know, like it should be the on change. Really, I'll tell you right now, it's in this one right here. It should be this thing right here. This thing right here, set query. So maybe this one should be right here, blah, blah, blah. It should probably be right here, okay, to be honest with you. So I'll let you guys refactor this one a little bit. Think about this one. Okay, other than that, I want to show you one more thing that has become a problem. And you guys are going to start seeing this happen a lot, okay? Not happening a lot. This is something that as you guys read documentation, you're going to start seeing this a lot. Yeah, you will start seeing this a lot, okay? So right now, how am I going to explain this? JavaScript has this thing called destructuring. Destructuring. Okay? It's a new concept in ES6, and it allows us to write our code more concise. So when dealing with objects, we're constantly grabbing the keys off of it, right? An object is useless if it doesn't have keys. So as you can see right here, we can do, like, how many keys do we have here? A, B, C, D, right? So we have pops.c plus pops.d, right? So what are we doing inside this function add? We're basically taking off every single key and we're adding them all up, right? So like this is a contrived example. Like you guys see that we use pops a lot. We use this a lot here. So there are many different ways to write this, okay? And I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways. What's the value right now, guys? Original value is 5. Okay, we're gonna write this down. So I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to show you a different way you could have done this. So we could return A plus B plus C plus D, right? And then you could have done const A is equal to pops.A. Is this better? Is this better, guys? No, it's not better. Does it work? It does in fact work. It is not better. I'll show you another way you could do this. And this is where you start. This is where you're really proving whether how good you are at JavaScript right now. Okay. So other than doing const this, that const A is equal to pops.A, const B is equal to pops.B, you could also use something called destructuring. So when you know what the key is that you want off the object, right, you can simply name it. So we're gonna do respond A plus B plus C plus D, okay? So we're gonna do const, and then we're gonna say an object, and then we can name the keys that we want. We can say A, B, C, D, and then we need to tell JavaScript, where are we gonna get these keys? Off of which object? Props. And this also works. This is also acceptable. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you another way you could do this. So we can use destructuring some more. So because we know that the props argument to our function is an object, we can just go ahead and destructure right here. So we'll delete this. And we know that the first argument that we pass to add is an object. So we can just do A, B, C, D. And this also works. This is called ES6 Destructuring. Okay, so just know that when you take, there are many different ways to grab keys off of objects, and this pattern is so common that there are many different ways to do it, and JavaScript has allowed us to a whole bunch of different ways to do this. So let's just compare our code. All of these techniques on lines 5 through 7, this is now not no destructuring. This is like the worst way you could have written this. This is using destructuring, and this is the most advanced use of destructuring. Destructuring actually gets more complicated than this. So
you're actually referencing, like, could you change those names in A, B, C, D in the argument, or is that talking to that object you're putting in?
Can you explain again?
Are you able to change those letters?
Yes, you could. Yeah. So I forgot the rule. Destructuring alias. I forgot exactly what it is. Hold on. I think it's okay, here it is. So if the key is D and we want to call it Z, this works. And it even gets more complicated than that, man. This is fucking crazy. If if inside of a key that you have something called a key on my object, if that has another object in it, right? And this has name Loy, you can furthermore destructure it. So we can say, I want this object right here. I want its key, a key on my object, and I want a certain value. Guess which one I want? Name. That's the one I want. So it's console.log name. And it also works. This is the magic that we do. So know that this is advanced. I get yelled at a lot. I remember last couple classes when I showed students how to do this, my boss came in and bitched at me like crazy. Why you keep doing that, Lloyd? Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm Charles, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So just know that you guys can do this. And I've been trying to not show you because my boss keeps yelling at me and saying, stop doing all this magical stuff. Okay? But you guys will see examples of this in your code. You guys will see examples of this when you guys Googling around. So you need to know how to do this. Okay? And if you want to write, like production code, then you need to, understand this. So I'm gonna give you a link. I'll link you guys in just a second to one I like. But just know that this is, when you guys deal with objects, you always want a key or two off the object, and you always know which key you want. So let's think. Okay, let's go back to our original movie card, right? Can we use this here? Can we? You notice that we do pop.movie a lot, right? So watch this. I'm gonna show you that this bad boy works. Okay. I refresh. Everything seems okay. So let's go ahead and destructure movie. And inside a movie, we know exactly which keys we want. In fact, this is what I would suggest you guys do. Just go ahead and delete everything right here. Say I would delete props.movie. Delete it. Now you see that VS Code is indicating to you what it is that's missing, right? You don't have these variables. So you know that it's an object, a movie object that's passed in, or props objects that's passed in. You know inside of it there's a key called movie, and then you know inside of that is an object, so you can do title, and then poster path, and then overview. And I promise you, I save and refresh you. This still works. I save it, I refresh, still works. Do you have any questions? have any questions, anyone?
In that scenario, that doesn't save much.
I would say it saves less. Some, yeah. We didn't have to do like pops.movie on 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. And the thing is, this is a contrived example, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do this all the way. Like I didn't have popularity, rating, release date, votes. I didn't have a bunch of stuff. But this is actually pretty useful, man. I do this all the time. All right, so you guys keep working. I've been talking for 20 minutes. Thank you for your